Always a pleasure to be joined by UFC featherweight Dan Hooker, who's returning to his original home, or at least the home he started out his UFC career in. He takes on Arnold Allen at UFC London. Dan, how's it going?
No, it's good. Just coming around to, the last couple of weeks. I think it's a week and a half until I head off over to the UK. So it's yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get over there.
Saw you eat like a plate of pasta with shrimp, so I'd say weight cut's going good.
No, it's going good. Like it's really going good. Like it's good that I did the test cut, so I kind of know what to expect. And yeah, like it's just really not been an issue. Like it's definitely I'm definitely a featherweight. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, because I was wondering like what prompted this move back down? Was it like the last after the last fight, or were you thinking about this a while ago?
No, I've been thinking about it for a while actually. Like I originally hit my coaches up and let them know that I would have liked to have back down to featherweight like over a year ago. I think it was like 2020 when I first hit them up, and just weren't that they weren't that keen on it. They're confident in my ability and thought that, there was like no one I could really not beat. Yeah, like it wasn't going to be the weight and size, like wasn't going to be an issue, and skill for skill that I could compete with anyone in the division. But after a couple of setbacks, it definitely changes the landscape, and it was just a good time to make the move. So it was definitely something that was on the cards, and it just made sense to make the move.
What were your coach's reactions now, like when you finally decided that you were going to do it? And was that kind of why you did the test cut to kind of make everybody feel comfortable, or maybe for yourself, just kind of like a validation that right, this is what I want to do?
No, the test cut wasn't really for me. Like I knew I could do it. I definitely knew that I could do it. I knew that, and I just utilized that time that I had stuck in Las Vegas, where I was at the PI and working with the team there and the coaches there, with the nutritionist there, Charles and Clint, and then my nutritionist, the fight dietitian Geordie, and just bouncing back and forth off those guys, and just felt it was a good opportunity. And yeah, my coaches kind of wanted to see it, I guess, and got it done, and it was done um, in just a couple of weeks, and it was all fairly straightforward. Recovered well, did some tests the day after the weight cut, and they all came back good to go. So it's just yeah, getting it past everyone.
Does that mean lightweight was, I don't want to say easy, but not as hard as everyone thought it would be? Does that mean like making lightweight for you was pretty easy? Is that why kind of why you felt like you could easily go back down to featherweight?
Yeah, like I guess just like progression and understanding everything. Um, like obviously the science has improved in that short space of time. Well, it's not a short space of time. I think it was 2016 was the last time that I fought as a featherweight. So in the last, 6 years, like the science around weight cutting has definitely improved, and it was just becoming very easy. Well, you can see it; it's became very easy. I flew halfway around the world, um, and then made weight in a day, and that was pretty easy for me. That was pretty straightforward. So it's just, yeah, it was very easy for me to get down to lightweight. Like I would come into fight weeks, and the UFC dietitians just kind of leave me alone, or more like try to keep weight on me. So yeah, there's a reason that we go to a weigh-in and we step on a scale, and they don't just check someone's height and say that's like old school Thai style, where you just show up to the weigh-in and they get two guys and you're just like, yeah, they're about the same size, like just eyeball it. So yeah, like I feel like it's a lot easier than people like assume it's gonna be.
Yeah, because I remember when Jose Aldo had said that he's going to move down to 35, they're like, man, he used to kind of kill himself to make 45. And then when he made that weight, and he's like, it's easier than 45 for him. And everyone's like, no way, what is he talking about? And he's been performing well. I mean, he's even been going 5 rounds with a lot of energy and stuff like that. So you kind of look at guys like that, and I don't want to say like take inspiration, but maybe like uh just as an example.
I just feel like everyone's different. Like, there's so many different references that you could point to, like good and bad, for making weight cut change, like weight class changes. Like people just can't put a general rule on it. Like, oh man, if you go down weight class, you know, you're gonna lose, or if you go way up weight class, you're gonna win, or you're gonna lose. Like it's just every individual athlete is very different, you know, so you have to take that into account. And I've just been working with the smartest and best people in the world in this specific field. So it's just gets easier over time, but it's not like a drastic weight cut, and it's not going to cause any damage like long term. And I feel like it's the definitely the best move for my career.
Would you rule out a return to 155, or is that just going to depend on results and what you're feeling in the moment?
Uh, I'm focused and committed to like the weight class at the time. At the time, like I wouldn't make the move um, to featherweight if I was just seeing how it goes, or this and that. Like um, I'm committed to featherweight, and I'm focused on featherweight. And yeah, I guess I just left the chat. I've left the chat at lightweight, and we'll see how the next couple of years go. You know, like when it comes down to fighting, like whatever weight class I get offered for whatever opponent, like that's not like a real issue to me. But I just feel like this is the best weight class for me.
Yeah, and you get Arnold Allen, who's on a very good win streak, for one of the best in the division. Was that kind of your intent? Like you wanted a top contender? You fought the who's who, and you've established yourself at lightweight as a contender. So this wasn't about like climbing any ladder, right? At featherweight, like you wanted to get go right into the deep end.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that was like my original intention. Like switching divisions was, you know, you I'm here to fight the best guys in the world. I'm not here to kind of make up the numbers, or kind of tread water at a weight class. Like I'm here to fight the best guys in the world. So like initially when I made the move, that's why, you know, people ask me, you know, who interests you, and I said guys like you know, Brian Ortega and Calvin Kattar and stuff like that. It's not to like disrespect those guys or anything like that, but it's just setting your intention within the weight class. Like my intention within the weight class is to fight the best guys, and then being offered Arnold Allen was just a, I thought when that name came through, that's an outstanding opportunity. You know, a guy on an 8 fight win streak in the UFC, undefeated in the UFC. Yeah, a guy is not going to be 8-0 in the UFC and not positioning himself for a title shot. Like he's definitely, without a doubt, a contender within the division. So it's like yeah, these are the guys that I want to compete against. I want to compete against the best, and that, without a doubt, is Arnold Allen.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely like a dark horse in the division. I feel like he perhaps doesn't get the respect that he deserves. I don't know if you agree with that. Maybe because he's a quieter guy, and perhaps since he hasn't had that like statement finish, at least not in recent memory. So, what do you make of Arnold Allen's game? Have you watched kind of his last few fights, and have you been impressed with him?
Yeah, I've watched a few of Arnold's fights. Like, yeah, he has like his achievements within the weight class are undeniable, and the guys that he's beaten are very skilled. But yeah, like I guess he just hasn't broken that barrier because he hasn't got the opportunity to compete against like a bigger name guy. So that, I guess, is like the intrigue for him in taking this fight, that I, you know, had an established name at 55 and coming down to 45. Like people wanted to know who I wanted to fight. So it's a win-win situation for the UFC, you know. Um, and that's kind of the fights that they like to match. It's either, you know, I come down and establish myself within the weight class, or he, gets that bigger name opponent that he's been chasing the last couple of years. So yeah, I feel like he's an incredibly skilled fighter, and all the like intrigue he's got behind him within the weight class is definitely deserved.
And yeah, he's a very technical guy. He's had those fights where he's been able to kind of pick guys apart. You've had both kind of fights. You've had where you've picked people apart, where you've gotten into these kind of brawl type fights. So, what do you think? How do you think the fight with Arnold is going to play out? And do you feel like maybe perhaps that you're going to have to bring the fight to him a little bit because he's going to try to stay technical? Because, or do you see it kind of like a chess match, or how do you see it going?
I don't know. Could go one or two ways. I feel like this fight could go either way for sure. Like you can definitely watch Arnold fights, and you can see like he's as technical as you like, and he does a great job of staying composed and breaking guys down. But he's definitely a dog, like when he does get backed into a corner, or has an opponent hurt or something like that, like he does bite down on his mouth guard, and he does start swinging, and he is quite a game opponent. So I think he's got a mixture of both. I have a mixture of both. So that's like the excitement around this fight, in that it could go one or two ways. It could be an extremely, technical chess match, or it could um, get a bit wild, and I'm happy to oblige either avenue that this fight goes.
How do you feel about going to London and fighting him? You kind of did that last fight, like the whole enemy territory. Maybe not so much because Islam Makhachev is not from the Middle East, but he does have a big fan base there. But obviously, O2 Arena is going to be pretty wild. How do you feel about going there and fighting in his home country?
I'm excited. I'm actually really excited to get over to the UK. Like it's something that not many guys get to do. Like we're from that Australasian region. He's from the UK region. Usually, if two guys like that fight, we meet each other in the US or something like that. So it's very cool that I get to go over there to the UK and compete. Like I haven't been to the UK yet, and I'm getting like a lot of messages from a lot of people, excited to see me come over there and put on a show for all of them. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm sure that the hometown crowd will be behind him and make some noise, but I don't really feel like it's enemy territory. It was kind of similar to when I fought at UFC Melbourne in the big stadium show, and Ally Quinta came down, and usually if they boo your opponent or something like that when they're down in your region, but it wasn't like that with Allan, just because I guess the fans like acknowledge the shows that he's put on over the years, and they acknowledge what he's achieved in his career. So there's like a level of respect among the UFC fans to that. So they kind of just cheered both of us in that fight at the walkouts and weigh-ins and things like that. We both got cheered pretty hard. So I'm like I'm expecting something more along those lines.
I know the fans have been chomping at the bit to have a show. UFC hasn't gone to London since 2019, so I know they were A, very excited the UFC is going back. B, the addition of your fight with Arnold Allen definitely got them super excited. But I wanted to ask you, any regret taking that fight against Islam on short notice, looking back now?
Uh, nah, no, no, definitely no regrets there. Like it's just how the game goes. It can go, it can go so many ways. It's the sport of risk versus reward. And it was definitely like the reward was definitely warranted in the risk for that fight. Like you win that fight, you're immediately in title contention, and that's like the ultimate of what you're trying to achieve. So, am I going to have regret for trying to achieve my goals? That's not something I would regret, and that's not something you can't fix the past within the sport. Things happen, and you just have to learn from your mistakes and move on.
For sure. And Islam finds himself in a similar situation this weekend with Bobby Green, but Bobby Green's unranked as well, and it's 160 catch weight bout. But Islam says he kind of asked for multiple people, and Bobby Green was the only one who put his or accepted the call. Do you agree with that? Do you think as well that perhaps some of the top contenders turned Islam down?
Risk versus reward. Risk versus reward. Taking that fight on what is it, a week, like a week, 2 weeks notice is just not obviously not worth the risk for those guys. You know, they've got huge names. They're positioning themselves for a title shot. So yeah, it just didn't just mustn't have made sense for them.
Right. And I wanted to ask you because I remember Israel Adesanya was saying that he doesn't want to fight in New Zealand. Like for him, he's not going to fight in New Zealand again. How do you feel? Because obviously it's been very tough and it's very well documented with you, especially the trips back home and stuff like that, or not being able to get back home. How do you feel about that? I mean, would you fight in New Zealand?
Uh, yeah, of course I'll fight in New Zealand. That's this is my home. This is my home. This is where I'm from. I would love to drive 10 minutes down the road and like I have three times and get in that cage and fight and then come home straight away to see my family. So without a doubt, I would fight in New Zealand, you know. Regardless of what's going on, there's like a huge support base for the UFC and its fighters here in New Zealand. So it's always a pleasure. I think it would less about any of that carry on, just more about the stress of fighting at home. Like that's the that's like the only big drawback, you know.
What's the travel situation for you currently right now? Do you know when you're going to be able to fly home?
Yeah, so the New Zealand border is opening up. I think it's March 13th. So my family's actually, well, they can't come back. They're in Australia at the moment. My wife and my daughter with their family there in Australia. She's visiting like her grandparents and things like that. So I'll go over to the UK, compete, and then I'll go see some family in Australia, and then I'll come home to New Zealand. So yeah, it's a uh, bit of quarantine and home, but not like some of the other fights where I'm stuck out for 3 months, 4 months, 2 months. So it's gonna be as close to back to normal as I've seen in the last 2.5, 3 years.
Oh, that's great to hear. What does this training camp look like for you? Have you done it predominantly at City Kickboxing, and have you been able to train with the main training partners that you usually do? What's it look like?
Yeah, I got back to I actually got this fight when I was in like a quarantine facility here in New Zealand because yeah, it's not like you come to New Zealand and you just skate like right through like they were at that time they were putting you into like a quarantine facility. So yeah, I think I was like 2, 3 days in that quarantine facility and then I got the message from Sean Shelby, you know, you want to fight Arnold Allen? I said, yeah, like that's a great fight. I'll take the fight. And then I think a couple of days later, I found out that it was in London, and I was like, "Oh man, that's a bit of a it's a bit of a hike." But spent 10 days in quarantine facility, got out, and then I've just hit the ground running since then. So I just came out and just straight into a training camp, which is kind of yeah, it's kind of been good, and it's kind of progressed over time. Like I was looking forward to coming home. And seeing friends and family and spending time with them. But you just gotta take these opportunities as they come. So I've yeah, like I'm all right, but I would just say like a lot of my friends and family and the people around me are the ones that have had to make that sacrifice um, as well. And so we'll get through this one, and then hopefully we can spend some time together.
For sure. And Arnold Allen, big winning streak. He's also ranked number seven, I believe, in the featherweight rankings. So I guess a win over him would really like allow you to make big moves in the featherweight division. Are you looking straight away at the upper echelon? Do you focus just on this fight, or where do you feel like a win over him puts you?
Oh. without it, I don't think anyone can deny that the winner of this fights one of the bigger name guys in the division. You know, a guy coming off a title fight or a guy who's, yeah, I feel like the winner of this fight moves himself into a contender matchup. I don't think, yeah, I don't think there's any argument for a guy winning this fight and then moving back down the line. So that's the intrigue in this fight. That's the excitement to it.
What do you make of the current state of the featherweight division? I mean, there have been some super exciting fights as of late, like especially in the upper echelon of the division. The wars that we've seen from Calvin Kattar, from Yair Rodriguez, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski. So does that excite you when you see these guys getting into these type of fights that you want to be a part of it?
Oh, for sure. It's been hot, man. It's been incredible. They've been putting on some incredible shows. Even the Giga Calvin Kattar fight, that was incredible. Yeah, Max, Yair, Volk, Ortega. Like there's been some really incredible fights recently. So it's exciting to get in the mix. That there's a lot of people excited about the division. There's a lot of people that want to see me fight these guys and compete against these guys. So yeah, top to toe, it's exciting. Like it's definitely not. I'm making the move because I feel like it's the best um, decision for me personally. But yeah, there's a lot of fans excited about those fights. So I'm obviously happy to get out there and compete against them.
The king of the division is obviously your teammate Alexander Volkanovski. The goal is obviously to be number one, to be the best. So any concern over that, or do you not think about, like, was that even something you thought about?
We're kind of just we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We're teammates of my team and coaches are currently over there at Freestyle MMA with Joe and Volk, and they're training there at the moment. So there's definitely no like division within that, and he's still a teammate and a friend. We'll see how it goes. It's not like it's going to be the next fight and moving straight into a title shot. So I don't feel like we're going to have to even cover that. He's got Korean Zombie, and then he's got a rematch with Max Holloway. It could be a year and a half, potentially before we would even have to start thinking about that or start considering that. So I think there's no point in it's a good problem to have when you and your mate have to decide who's the best fighter in the world. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, fair enough. And how do you see the fight between Volk and Korean?
Well, I would have to maybe process that a bit more. Obviously backing my teammate. Yeah, I feel like Volk just carries a bit too much power. He's definitely the more powerful of the two, and he'd kind of be able to shut down the Korean Zombie's game. Korean Zombie tends to wear a few shots to get his shots off, and that's just something that you can't do against a guy that carries the kind of power that Volk does.
Before I let you go, and you've been very generous with your time, ideally, what does 2022 look like for Dan Hooker?
Yeah, well, I'm just concentrating on Arnold Allen. It's been a bit of a whirlwind after finally getting home, jumping straight in the training camp, and then shooting off to the UK, and then Australia, and then back home to New Zealand again. So, man, to stay busy, to stay active, to stay improving, and to just really let my skills shine. Yeah, like I'm excited. I'm excited for everything. I'm excited for the change of weight class, the fresh start um, at a division that I'm excited to compete in, and I feel very comfortable competing in. You know, all the restrictions around the world are lessening, especially back home in New Zealand. The border is finally getting some kind of relief after 2 years, 2.5 years of pretty much being closed, and it pretty much being damn near impossible to travel to New Zealand. So all of that's opening up. Uh, Having my coaches there with me at fights is going to be a nice treat for a change. So yeah, I'm just excited for everything.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you for taking your time. Very much looking forward to your fight with Arnold Allen. Like I said, fans got super excited when that fight was added to the card, and it's my time zone for a change. So I'm very excited to sit back and watch in the regular time. Dan, thank you so much and best of luck.
No trouble. Thank you very much.